It comes quickly like the rainstorm you weren't expecting on your way home from Target, and typically passes over just as fast. But when it was there, it was like a downpour tsunami of fun and amazingness. But some games, I would argue, the better games, evolve from being just a fad and have lived on, survived through its darkest hours. So when will the next big game come, and what will it need to survive like the big dogs? I think all big games need to meet a certain criteria, a checklist if you will, to assert themselves atop the chart. First off, addiction, like a big, girthy needle of gaming dopamine fuel being injected into the foreheads of all who play it. It's the key to win the time, and more importantly, the money of all who play it. Money. That's a pretty big one. The free but not really free game, because most likely you'll be so addicted you'll want to buy everything it has to offer. Yeah, that is something a big game needs. Replayability. It needs to be able to be played over and over and over and over. But how is a game made replayable? Well, the answer is quite simple actually. You just need, what's that word again? Oh, right. A battle pass. Multiplayer. Yes, there have been some masterpieces dropped that are single-player exclusive, but I would argue that none of them really took over the world. You need a game that can be played with your friends. You need a game that you can think outside the box and not stick to a story. Preferably, a game that can be played with lots of people to make everyone addicted. The more the merrier. The more, the merrier those pockets of the developers will be. I also think being not realistic is a big one. Here's where we start to get a little philosophical. So if you're not a big fan of Darwin or whatever that scientist guy's name is, you might want to skip ahead. I actually think that hyper-realistic games limit potential so much. Honestly, I think it's a part of the reason why games like Call of Duty, aside from being a cash grab and recycled content, are not doing as well as games that take a more cartoonish approach and have had better long-lasting success like Fortnite, Rocket League, Minecraft. I think games that take a more fantastical and kind of cartoonish approach have way more appeal to the audience that has the most time on their hands, kids and teenagers. And honestly, adults enjoy that stuff too. It makes you feel like a kid again, like you can be creative when coming home from work or grocery shopping or drinking non-flavored coffee or going to Home Depot, whatever weird things adults love to do. But obviously catering more towards kids and teenagers, the people who play games the most, and spend the most, and who use their mom's credit cards the most. The point is, games that are less realistic open the door for more creativity. There's a reason why some of the biggest games ever involve building, crafting, creating in general. Games like Call of Duty involve the exact same thing every time. The difference between them and more long-lasting games is the ability to replay it in a different way every time. Also, games that are catered towards casual players as opposed to ones that are meant for competitive players. There's a reason why games that turn competitive die. I know I'm using a lot of Fortnite comparisons, but it's because that's probably the game that had the most worldwide influence during its peak. Once Fortnite introduced things like cash cups in the World Cup, the complaints instantly came rolling in, and honestly, I don't really blame them. Why would I possibly enjoy playing against people who have the intention of being so good that they intend to win money? Yeah, that sounds enjoyable. Here's one I find to be particularly important, but definitely not needed. I actually prefer third person in games most of the time. I find it to be more immersive in terms of the atmosphere, being able to see to the left, right, and above while also being in control of your character. I know this point of view might kind of be in the minority, but it's something I find better. Not that I dislike first person games, as games like Minecraft are way better in first person, but it's something that I do consider when I'm thinking about how much I enjoy a game. I'm sure this won't come as a surprise, but we need something unique. Games that introduce new styles of playing and thinking often are the ones that stick around the longest. It's definitely a lot harder to be unique now than it was 10 years ago, but we just need something that's different from the battle royale and survival games. Honestly, we just need a game that's loaded with... On a serious note, the term unique is so overused in general that you can't really just say that the next big thing needs to be unique. I've tried for a while to come up with some ideas as to what can make a game actually unique, and I've come up with some things that I wanted to share that won't necessarily happen, and probably won't happen, but that might be interesting to see in future games. I think a game with a story where characters get to certain areas or bosses and need to battle them could use a PvP twist. Here's an example. Players who have beaten the game get the option to go back and play as the bosses and can queue into the level that another player is on, making it so that the player is fighting a boss being controlled by a person rather than just like an AI entity. Or even a level where the player can't advance in the story until they survive an area involving multiple in-game players. Like a level where a character is put in a holding area by the antagonist and the only way to get to the next part of the game is queuing with other players in game and like fighting it out. This way it mixes the aspect of a story-driven game where you can get involved with the characters and their storylines along with PvP and kind of more of like a competitive aspect. Again, this idea is pretty half-baked and might not ever work, but it's an idea I wanted to put out there. Or a type of fantasy gladiator style game in a massive arena where players battle till the last person stands, which I know not the most original thing, but with the ability to use random items like toilet paper and gift wrapping to trap players and just like more of like a goofy approach. Kind of a more like creative battle royale that would allow for more variety and like different ways of eliminating players than just having to build and shoot. The way I think of this is kind of like a game that looks like Disney Infinity, if you remember that from back in the day. I know that's a huge throwback, but where like 50 or 100 players battle it out using things like Nerf guns, ping pong paddles, water guns, like things of that nature. I don't know, I'm a sucker for just like weird, like creative, kind of like goofy stuff in games. So for me, that's something that I would really like. These games that take over the world bring loads of people together. I think it's the reason why I and many others crave the next big thing, knowing the memories we've made with the other great games of our time. Part of the reason these games come few and far between is mainly because of innovation. Recycled ideas are bound to die quickly, so the introduction of something new would be perfect to bring the spirit alive. These games, for a lot of people, spark the love for gaming again, as it's usually lost somewhere along the line just from boredom or interest with other things in life. Getting the new big game and experiencing it with the rest of the world is awesome. It gives you something to do with friends and to talk about and share stories about. It's a big reason why I keep an eye out whenever I hear about new releases, seeing if it has potential to be the new big phenomenon. In reality, the next big thing will most likely come along when I least expect it, like getting a game on a whim because a friend told me about it or randomly seeing it on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, a big reason why replayability is so important is for games to get exposure on sites like YouTube and be shown everywhere. The more videos are made about a certain game, the more people's interests are sparked, which is a big reason why YouTubers influence the success of a game and how creative they're able to get with it. Any game I've ever played, I'm always more excited to play it when I see YouTubers hyping it up. It really is a big reason why following the crowd and riding the hype train gets games going, and from there, it's just up to the developers to keep it alive. Updates definitely make or break these types of games, which is a big reason why games are able to have continued success, whereas others haven't been able to really add much or develop the game to keep up with other games. For example, Fortnite's slow map evolution and themed battle passes allowed for productive updates that have now turned into Marvel advertisements. And then they went back to the old map, and then a new map. And surprise, the game is now kind of back in the grave. So the point is that being able to evolve games in a slow way that's actually considerate to the people who play it is the way to go, and that's the reason why games are able to last for so long. So I'm really hoping we get a new worldwide game coming soon. That would be amazing. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry if any part of this video had some weird audio. I sometimes get a little too close to my mic and it kind of makes the mic spike a little bit. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out.